think we're going to get started here. I want to remind everybody before we begin that this meeting is being recorded to Facebook Live so that we can continue to educate those that look on to the ElderWorks site for information. I'd like to introduce myself, Barbara Rosenberg. I'm a community care consultant for ElderWorks. Also assisting today is our office manager, Emily Grosinger. We're very grateful for everything that you do for us. Just to tell you a little bit first about ElderWorks and to welcome everybody at the noon hour today. Again, I'm Barbara Rosenberg, and ElderWorks' mission as a 501c3 not-for-profit is to assist seniors and their families in making great choices to move from the home to independent living, assisted living, memory care, if someone needs a nursing home, or if somebody needs home care options. And our assistance is at no charge to the public. We are funded, or our not-for-profit is funded by our partner communities. We are a wealth of resource for legal, for any kind of questions about Medicare, Medicaid. We do have social service on our team as well for those that are in need and need resources. You can look at us at ElderWorks, ELDERWERKS.org, and you can see our resource directory online. It also comes in the form of a paperback, and they're available here at our Palatine office at 251 East Northwest Highway. For today's town hall, I wanted to just let you know that you are more than welcome to show your face. You may show your face in video. You may unmute yourself if, because this is interactive and Mark will be talking in a moment, but feel free to chime in with questions. If you don't want to do that and you want to use the chat, I'm so happy to monitor the chat and ask Mark your questions, but you're more than welcome to show, your face if you'd like, or you could just unmute yourself to ask the question without showing your face. So I just want everybody to be comfortable, and that's what we're here for today. So without further ado, and again, all of us welcome you from ElderWorks, our president Jennifer Prell, vice president Gail Nixick, all of our folks. We're just honored that you're tuning in to us today. I would like to introduce someone extremely special as a professional, as a friend, as someone that I have referred to, as someone I continue to refer to, as a fellow broker in the state of Illinois. Mark Rantis is the CEO of the Rantis Group, Keller Williams Success Realty. And the best part about Mark is that he had been looking for senior living for his own father and saw the need for resources for people that just didn't know what to do. Didn't know what to do with the gap of selling the house, of navigating, like where to move, where to go, where to give the furniture away to, how to clean a house out, what to do. And so Mark is a seniors designated realtor, SRES, which is what we like to refer to, that specializes in these kinds of things. Mark serves on the board of directors for the statewide continuity of care and has been awarded by Chicago Agent Magazine Who's Who for the years 2021 and 2022. So without further ado, Mark Rantis is going to talk about preparing to sell the home, decluttering, and options to downsize. Welcome, Mark, and thank you, everyone.
Wow. I got to hire you as my intro person, Barbara. That was fantastic.
Anytime.
Hello, everybody. I'm very honored and blessed to be here. My name is Mark Rantis, and pretty much everything you want to learn today, I've lived. So I've been through this personally with my own family, my own father. But back then, it was kind of like 06 through 08. We had no clue what to do, like no clue where to start, what resources were available. I mean, we were told by the hospital case manager, your dad keeps falling, he can't go back home. You got to go find him a place. I didn't know ElderWorks existed. I didn't know Paxum existed. I didn't know what elder law was. I mean, we were literally kind of creating a path as we go. And after going through all that, I saw that there was a huge need to help folks with this. And I'm 44, I've lost both my parents. So my big why behind this is if I can help someone dissolve the stress of this process, whether it's the person moving themselves and or also their adult children, that's kind of like, that's the win for me with this. So I want this to be a conversation. I'm not a PowerPoint person. I'm not a presentation person. I want this to be a conversation. I'm going to give you some tidbits and info, but I want you all to feel free to unmute, ask questions as we go along, or put them in the chat if that's more comfortable for you. I feel if you have a question, everybody else probably has the same question, and it leads to more questions. And my goal is for at the end of the day today, I want all of you to walk away with your answers, your questions answered. I want you to feel comfortable and be like, oh, I could have a game plan. Okay, this makes sense. Or should we put money into this? Whatever you want to know is what I want you to get out of today. So I guess to start off, does anybody have anything to get a pulse of the room? Anything they'd like to get answered so I know to cover those things? You know, feel free to chime in or put them in the chat. I know Barbara's going to help facilitate that. And you know, we can get started from there. I'll just give a second for anybody to throw out a question, maybe via chat.
Okay, go ahead, Mark, and then we'll.
Okay,
Go ahead.
cool. So I want to start off with going over, like, everybody hears about the market today. The market's on fire. Well, why is that? Why is it so crazy? There's no inventory. These are things you're hearing from people, from agents, from the news, what have you. And as crazy as it sounds, there were more homes sold in 2021 than ever in history. Usually the US averaged between 5 and 6 million homes sold per year. Last year, there were over 7 million. So you're like, well, where are all the homes? Well, why is it as crazy as it is? Well, there's a couple of factors. One, if you look at a trend line of new homes built from the 1930s to today, in the 1930s, there were about 5.6 million homes for the decade built. Let's fast forward to 2010. I'm sorry. 2010, it got up 04, 05, 06, up to 27 million. From 2010 to today, it like an anchor off a building, it plummeted to about just under 6 million homes built. So we're like 20 million homes behind the curve of new inventory. Now, the new construction has been speeding back up, but it's getting there. But you can't take a cruise ship and pull a U-turn. It's going to take some time to catch up to that demand. So that's factor one. So what that means is all the other resale homes are getting gobbled up. Factor two, rates are at historic lows. Now, granted, they just went up in the last 2 weeks to like 4.5%. So if anybody was looking for those 2% rates, those are long gone now. And the Fed had just announced in their last meeting, they're increasing the rates like 6 times this year. So what does that mean? Well, if you, and the rent rates are going up. So you've got a lot of people that would rent and go, wait, I can buy and have a lower payment than my rent payment, and I get the write-offs. So now that has influxed the market. And about, I think I just saw a statistic, about almost 50% of the purchases almost are millennials. Third piece, COVID. The pandemic altered the way we work, altered the way we live, altered the need of a home. So you've got folks that are now going, oh, wait, I don't have to live in the city because I don't have to commute to the train. I can work from home now. Or, oh, wait, I have a hybrid schedule and my, what was happening is when we had certain lockdowns, you had people working at their dining room table and their kid was e-learning across the dining room table from them. And they're like, I need space. I'm going back crazy. So you're seeing an influx of folks leaving the city into the burbs. And the reason you're seeing that is, one, there's a lot of the chaos going on, but two, normally somebody would live in an apartment, they get a bigger home, and then jet to the burbs. They're skipping all that and going right to, I need a home office, I need an in-law arrangement. We're seeing a lot of adult children moving mom and dad in with them, even if it's for a time being, until they go into maybe a senior living community because the home they're currently in is not conducive and they're isolated. Maybe mom and dad, my dad was a fall risk. He kept falling, right? So he was confined to our first floor, we had a 2-story home. So there's all these different factors that have factored into the craziness of the market. And just to give you some quick numbers to show you the craziness of it, we'll start in the city. I took Edison Park and Jefferson Park, the northwest side of the city. In the last 2 weeks, 20 homes have gone under contract. Only 8 new have come to the market. So that's almost it's a 2.5 to 1 ratio of buyer demand outpacing the supply available. You head to the burbs, Buffalo Grove, 32 homes under contract, only 2 new to the market. Palatine was 28 under contract with 5 new. If you're in DuPage, Downers Grove, 32 and 2. It's kind of bonkers. And Barbara, because I know Elderworks' office is in Palatine. I did Palatine as a bird's eye view. For folks living in Palatine, from last year to now, your property value has increased by 13.4%. So what does that mean? Well, January of 2021, the average home was worth $335,000 in the town of Palatine. Today, it's worth $380,000. That's just by the nature of the market. Now, granted, if you've done updates, not done updates, there's different factors. But that's pretty bonkers that it's been usually a trend line is a 4% increase every year, give or take. 13.4%. Now, some of you might want to ask, I get asked a lot, is this a housing bubble? No. The bubble we had 03 through 07 happened because you had no restrictions on appraisals. They would magically appraise. You had people that could fog a mirror getting a mortgage. A lot of restrictions have been put in place, and the homes that went under in that time were upside down. Even the folks that had to do forbearance in the last 2 years, most of them have built-in equity. So if they had to sell, they're not foreclosures because there's still room to make a move. So if you're contemplating moving and selling, it's a seller's market at the moment. Now, rates are going up. Now, how does that affect you? You're like, well, I might move into an assisted living or into an independent living, or I might downsize into a condo or a ranch or the Del Webb. How do the rates affect me? Well, a big portion of the buyers have to get a mortgage. And if the rates go up, that affects their affordability. So the higher the rate, the less house they can buy. And a 0.5% increase could adjust someone's purchasing power by $30,000 to $70,000 on the purchase price. So I just want to kind of give an idea of what the market is like and what to expect. Now, there's ways to maximize the equity, which we'll get into in just a moment, but just want to kind of give everybody a bird's eye view of the numbers. Does anybody have any questions about the market or myths you've heard or any questions you'd like to have answered regarding property, how they're moving, what's the condo market like anything I can, before I get into the next section?
Just real quick, I just want to mention something to you in terms of the quote unquote readiness of a condo, of a home. What do people need to do? Just the basics, in order to get those values, or are those inspections, are people looking closer at that? Are they ignoring that because housing's flying out the window? What's going on with preparation for real estate?
So you still have to have a nice looking house, meaning it doesn't have to be HGTV aftershot. However, and that's a great question, Barbara, you got to have it where somebody walks in and it's clean, it's well dressed, so to speak, right? Like when you go to buy a car, are the cars on the showroom dirty or are they polished, armor-alled, and clean? Right? Even they do their best to do that to a used car, but if it's been dirty, it's not worth as much. So, and the buyers today, I mean, you're seeing crazy, crazy things happening. Buyers are waiving inspection. They're waiving the appraisal. They're saying, we'll close in 30 days and let you live here for another 60, 90 days if you need it to go wherever you're going. They're doing whatever they need to do. That being said, I've also noticed buyers get very picky if they are doing inspection, even if it's an as-is sale, they're still asking for things, especially if it's a safety concern. So one of the things you can do that I highly recommend is what's called a pre-inspection. Have your house inspected before you go on the market. Because here's the thing, back in the day, it was frowned upon because, oh, well, if the seller knows about it, now they have to disclose it. They're gonna find it. And every property I've done where it's been inspected first has been probably the most easiest smooth sale closings we've ever had. Because you find out, do I have mold in the attic? You know, if you live in an older town and the home was built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, your bathroom vents were vented right up into the attic, not out properly. So you've got decades and decades of condensation just floating up into your attic. It creates mold. Maybe the exhaust pipe on your hot water heater or furnace wasn't angled the right way. You might have a carbon monoxide leak. You might have handyman wiring inside your electrical box you're unaware of. So there's all these different things where if you can find the major pieces and fix it, you can do it ahead of time, more cost effectively, and it just puts you in a better position. The second thing is, and this is where like the downsizing piece comes in, is how do you take 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of stuff and clear the deck? What do you do? Where do you start? Buyers, when they walk into a home, let me back up for a second. If you're downsizing to a ranch, to a 55 and older community, to a condo, a townhome, a non-senior living place, if you have the ability to buy that place first and move out, it's better for you. Because if you need to be contingent upon your sale, the chances of you getting another place are very slim in this market, just because there's too many offers and there's too much risk. However, if you need to stay, you need to stage is kind of a broad term. You want your home to look as open and spacious as possible, because let's all face it, I can't see anybody's faces here, but raise your hand if you have a bunch of stuff in your house, right? We all have crap. And the funny thing is, everybody thinks they have more crap than the next person. So subconsciously, when a buyer walks into a house, if you've got a desk in your primary bedroom and you've got boxes and a shredder, is it a bedroom or is it an office? And a buyer's going to walk in, for example, and go, wow, they have a lot of crap. We have more crap than they do. There's no way our crap will fit here. And they go on to the next house. Versus if you're able to put a lot of your stuff in storage, even pieces of furniture you don't even use, put it in a storage facility, have a mover, put it in a temperature controlled storage. There's a lot of movers have programs where they'll take, you know, a couple of vaults worth of your stuff, get it out. Now it looks more spacious, more roomy. So when a buyer walks in, they go, oh, there's a lot of room here. We can fit our stuff here. So those are just some of the little things. If you're like, okay, I've got decades of stuff of kitchen utensils and I use 8% of it, what do I do? Well, number one, the first thing you do is you bring in a consultant. Like I know Paxum has a phenomenal estate sale division. Is there enough stuff worth doing an estate sale? I don't know. You have to bring them in to look and see, do you have special, you know, mid-century modern furniture? Do you have China? Do you have, you know, I'm not as familiar with all the trinkets, but there's a lot of things worth value. There's a lot of things not worth value. You know, we sold my parents' house. My grandmother spent a fortune on all the furniture at a store that's no longer around called Plunkett's. And when I went to, I was lucky to sell it to some guy off Craigslist for, you know, fraction of the price. I just want it out of the house. So a lot of donation places or consignment places aren't even taking things anymore because they got overwhelmed with the pandemic and no one's buying China cabinets anymore. No one's buying some of the big pieces. So seeing, is it worth doing an estate sale? If not, it's 4 buckets per room. Bucket 1, what do you want to take with you? The essentials. What you need, not always what you want. Do you really need that extra spatula or no? Are you, where you're going, are you going to cook anymore? Do you need the frying pans? Do you need a microwave? You might need the microwave, right? But do you need the 3rd set of silverware? Probably not. So bucket 1 is what you need and what you're going to take with you. Bucket 2, any family and friends that want any of this stuff. Might be sentimental reasons. You might be selling a loved one's who had passed, and it's like an actual estate sale, or it's a guardianship or probate situation, which I do a lot of. So I see this all the time. And there's certain things that dollar-wise are worth nothing, but to someone, it's the great grandmas and their sentimental value. Take that. So those are the first 2 buckets. The 3rd bucket, what can we donate? What donation places, who's in need of certain things? And there's a slew of different donation places you can send it to. The 4th bucket is the junk bucket. Whatever's left over, we recycle and toss. And there's different services that can do. There's literally nothing you need to do, which is what I've learned over the years. You can literally click a button or make a phone call. I act as the conduit. I try to be the easy button for everybody. So you don't have to lift a finger. Let the professionals do what they need to do so you can focus on what's important, your health, your family, you know, where you're moving to and what's the best thing for you. Don't worry about all the other ancillary things. So once you go through all that, if you are moving into an assisted living or a skilled nursing or an independent living, you know, and you have someone like, you know, if ElderWorks help you with the move, you want to be out of your house before you sell it. You want to be out, you want your stuff out, you want a clean palette. Why? Buyers today can't picture living their stuff with your stuff in it. I know some agents might combat me on this on the whole staging thing, but I've done this for over 14 years, and I can tell you, if you have older furniture and the home needs some updates, when a buyer walks in, it seems older to that buyer, especially the new age of buyers. And they're going to go, wow, this needs a lot more work than I thought. And guess what happens to their offer? It comes down. That's not how you maximize the equity. If it's a clean palette, they can picture their sectional. They can picture their furniture in your space. Now they're excited about where they're going to put it, not what they need to do, which leads me to the other path. Does it make sense to do some updates? Maybe there's old peeling wallpaper, old carpeting. Maybe there's hardwood underneath. Does it make sense to have a small budget? If you can get a 3 to 4 to 1 return on your investment, and we're not talking redoing kitchens and bathrooms and basements and permitted work. We're talking landscape, power wash, just a once over, so to speak. If it makes sense to do, get it deep cleaned, having a cleaning crew come in and deep clean the house, the drawers, the appliances, all these little things you can do. So when a buyer walks in, they go, wow, this was all maintained. This is well taken care of. I feel confident that I could buy this house. So those are just some of the little things that you can do. Are there any questions at this point, or questions you want about your particular property or a loved one's property? Should I do this with this or this with that? I'd love to take a pause for a second and kind of answer some questions if anybody has any. Anybody? Anybody want to unmute?
Hey, Mark, Bob Mauer, can you hear me?
Hey, Bob. Yes, how are you?
Real good, thanks. Nice presentation so far. Appreciate it. Question for you. My mother is in a position where she needs to downsize, and to the point that you just raised about the cost benefit analysis of either replacing something or maybe upgrading it a bit. You say around 3 or 4 to 1 would be the right math if you can get that kind of return. Or next question, which segues, is it a good idea to get a couple of brokers to take a look at the place and eyeball it, and they'll know a good idea of what the market is in terms of what the buyers are looking for, and then they could recommend, hey, do this, forget that, change this, don't change that.
I think to answer, well, I'm going to answer question 2 so I can get to question 1. So getting multiple opinions is very beneficial. However, I think if it's a situation like this, the brokers you interview specifically should be SRES. And I say that, which means senior real estate specialist. There is an art and a science to selling homes like this. It's not your typical plug and play sell type property. So it's also important to ask the agents you're interviewing if they know of any construction background or if they have like a rehab background or understand construction costs, because then they can give you a better eyeball of what it takes to repaint. What is it going to take to do the carpeting? Do they have contacts that can cost effectively do those things? Because I've been in situations where someone was told it's going to cost 20 grand to do it. We got it done for 6. So I think getting difference of opinions and maybe hitting a happy medium to budget that way. Now, I shoot for a 3 to 4 return. It sometimes doesn't even make a difference or matter if you could get the return. Sometimes you don't, it doesn't make sense to do it. From a time perspective, if what you're going to do is out of stock, like if you're going to redo some flooring, is that flooring available? You know, if it's in, sometimes you don't want to delay getting on the market because you might be giving up pennies to pick up thousands. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Timing is everything. So I understand.
It's everything. And I think if you know, I've had situations where, yeah, could have used a paint job? Sure. But if the buyer's going to come in and do it all anyway, and it's clean and presentable, sometimes it doesn't make sense to do anything but to do a deep clean. Have the grass cut, the leaves picked up, maybe some mulch in the front, deep clean the house, and boom, go on the market. You know, it's really a case by case basis. It's not a one size fits all type thing, but a lot of people don't know the actual costs. And I'm speaking from experience. I'm learning as we go. Right before this, I was at my own house. I'm having my entire basement redone. And I just got shell shocked of what some things we need to do we weren't planning or aware of. And I'm like, oh. So, because once you open up walls, once you start doing things, you start seeing like, okay, this, and this have to get addressed. So it's literally a case by case basis.
Okay, that's a good start.
Does that help?
It does. Thanks.
Sure. I see in the chat, Keith, what do you think about the value of using a professional organizer? I think it's a great idea. I think it depends on the situation, Keith. I think if it's a hoarder, it doesn't make sense. You just got to clear the deck because you don't know what's behind the hoard. If it's well maintained, well lived in, and it's just cluttered, bringing an organizer in might be a big factor. That's where like having a moving company as a partner to stash some of this stuff away, reorganize might be beneficial. You know, if somebody has to live in the property while they're selling it, you just want it to be as well designed and spacious and organized as possible. A, when the buyer walks in, they feel it's well maintained. B, the less clutter. Think of it this way. When you go to the container store and they give you the examples of the models of the different closets you can do they have them packed with clothes, or is there only like 3 hangers and 2 shirts, right? It's to make it appear organized and larger. So having someone that has the eye for that, I think is very important. Anybody else? Unmute, chat.
Hey, Mark,
Hey, Keith.
it's Keith. The reason that I bring it up, you know, And, by the way, both of us are realtors and both of us are SRES certified. But, I think it's great, when you've got like a son like yourself, who's ready and able to do the three buckets. But then oftentimes, and there's maybe perhaps people that are on the webinar right now who are in this situation where, maybe they just don't have the resources, maybe they're, don't have the time, siblings, like for instance, in my particular case, my mother, my 93-year-old mother lives in Chicago along with my 82-year-old aunt, but I got a sister that lives in Seattle and my brother lives in Texas. So guess who gets the work?
Well,
So I
Keith, a
guess
lot of people are in your situation.
yeah.
A lot
So
of
I guess
people.
that's the reason why I bring it up, and I was just kind of interested because I'm sure that there are, plenty of other people who either have relatives or maybe they have neighbors, right? And maybe they
Well,
don't even have any kids, to help them with it. So,
I would say
because
instead of an
there's a
organizer,
cost factor, right?
yeah, but
With the organizer, right? Is
instead
it
of an
worth it?
organizer, I think for the purpose of this discussion, an organizer is probably not the way to go. I think you need a crew like Paxum where they're actual move managers because they will help do that also. And they have the crew to do the packing. Because to bring an organizer in, if you're going to stay there or, organizing is one thing, but if you're moving, chances are 99% of the time, you've got too much stuff anyway. You're not taking it all with you. And where you're moving to is much smaller. If you live in a 3 or 4 bedroom house that's 18 to 2,500 square feet, let's say, or even more, and you're moving into a 1,500, 1,200 square foot ranch, or if you're moving to senior living and you're going to like a 500 square foot apartment, you're not bringing 99% of the stuff. So organizing it really doesn't make as much sense. Having a senior move manager pick, pack, and move and help do it that way and help sort through. It's almost like when you call them, it's like waving the magic wand and everything just gets kind of like put where it needs to and tucked away or removed to make the move make sense. And they help you go through your stuff. So I think in this sense, a move manager makes more sense than an organizer. Unless somebody's literally a minimalist and just needs some things, decluttered. But
But I
out of all the
respect-
houses I've sold, it's rare that an organizer is enough for this type of a move. So move manager. So for those that don't know, Barbara and Elderworks, their sister company is Paxum. Paxum is a senior move manager. A senior move manager is literally like having your own team of people. So I'll tell you a story. Let's just say I'll make up a name, Barbara. Well, Barbara. Let's just say it's Ruth. Ruth is 82. She lives in a 2-story home. She's been there 42 years and needs to move into a 1-bedroom assisted living apartment. How does she do it? Oh, and by the way, all the adult children live out of state. So Paxum and their team of people will come in and literally pick, pack, and move Ruth to her new place, to the point of where when she gets to her new home, her bed is made with her sheets. Her clothes are tucked away in the closet, tucked away in the dresser drawer. Her photos are on the wall. Her slippers are by the bed. Everything is there like as if she's been living there for 5 years. So when she gets there, it's all done. And everything at the house has been boxed, packed, and either tossed, recycled, donated, or moved. And it's the easy button. That's what a move manager does. They literally manage the move for you. So you don't have to spend your time lifting boxes, going to Home Depot, trying to figure out how much bubble wrap do we need? What do we do with this? They do all of that for you.
I have
Hopefully
to point out here, and I put the Paxum information in here, moving, packing, organizing, decluttering, it's not inexpensive. it can be costly, and again, I put Heidi's information in there just to get an idea. It's really hard because sometimes it does require all hands on deck for families in these homes that are just, all these years of this holding on. So I guess the message too here is for all of you, even as adult children or influencers or whatever, is that you want to do all this while you can. And maybe if there's good neighbors, or maybe if, you can contact Catholic Charities, if somebody needs some home care and they don't have the money, maybe a home care provider through Catholic Charities could assist a client, with some of this kind of thing. And so, to look out to those resources, to senior centers, to look other places to see if there's trusted individuals to help somebody undo their house, because there is a cost to this. So I just want to make sure that, understand that there's a
Hey,
cost.
Barbara, to piggyback off that, as far as like, what does it cost? It's a case by case basis. Everybody's home is worth something different. What you're moving and how much you have left over is different. That's why it's important to bring in, like Bob had asked, like, should I have some people give me an idea of what it might cost to do these things? Absolutely. You
So
want to
there's
get an
questions,
idea.
again, there's questions in the chat. Mark, from your experience from dealing with PACs and other places, what's roughly some of the cost to get a house prepared and cleaned out? A couple $1,000s?
I mean, I've seen as low as some people they're only taking a little bit of stuff and the rest just gets junked. So that's the other thing. The move part might be under $1,000. It might be 2,000 or 3,000. It depends on how much stuff they're taking with them. If you're going to use, the rest is going to get junked. I would not call 1-800-GOT-JUNK unless you want to overpay. There's multiple people, but the company who's been served the best, and I know Paxum uses them as well, as Junk Relief. They are phenomenal. They're licensed, they have a fleet. They prorate their trucks. I give them so much volume that I get
So to clarify too, you pay by the truck. Is that the junk
the
relief?
best way to do it is to pay by the truckload, because
Mhm,
if you pay by the hour, you don't know how many hours it'll be. It could
Mhm.
take them all day, but if it's by the truckload,
mhm.
you can count, okay, they'll come in and assess and go, there's about 4 truckloads worth or 2 truckloads worth. And if they say it's going to take 3 truckloads and they can do it in 2, you pay for 2. If they can do it in 2.5 or 2 3/4, you pay for 2.5 or 2 3/4. So they take photos when they're done. It's all cleaned up. It's literally, it's amazing. And I've had them do as little as like a shed in a backyard and a mattress to an entire house clear out.
We had
Top to
Mark and
bottom.
I had a client together. Just Mark, this is a good example. We had a client way south side by Evergreen Park. This gentleman's house was in complete disrepair. Water was in horrible condition. He was moving to a
Right.
studio apartment in supportive living. And Mark, roughly what was the cost to get junk relief in there and get that house cleaned out? Do you remember just
I
from
want to say it was about 4 truckloads, and he had a ranch, but he was a hoarder, and there was a lot of stuff. And it's amazing how much you can fit in a ranch
Mhm.
and a full basement. I want to say it was like 3 to 4 truckloads, which
Each truck
is
was how
about
much?
2,100 ish.
Mhm.
I think he paid between 2 and 2,300 ish was
Okay.
if I remember correctly.
And remember, for
Um,
hoarding, everybody, there's hazmat suits involved. There's a lot of protective gear involved. And so just in terms of that part of it, and I don't work for Paxum, but it's our sister company, and I know enough to know that there is a cost attached to that type
Well,
of.
and when you have, like, in that particular case, Barbara, like, there was a path to walk in the house. So imagine like your living room, your dining room, your kitchen, all your bedrooms are packed floor to ceiling with stuff. Like, that's a lot of stuff. It's not like, oh, I've got 10 years worth of tax records cluttering my office. Hoarding is like floor to ceiling boxes where you can't even see the walls because there's so much stuff. This was one of those situations. And if anybody needs any, information, I can connect you. Just DM me when this is over or whatnot, and I can connect you with the resources. But you know, the point of this is you're not in this alone. There's a lot of help, and there's a lot of ways to navigate to help you maximize them. And everybody works hard to build equity in their house, whether it's due to the market or your own sweat equity, or you're just trying to maximize for your future retirement or your healthcare needs. How do you squeeze every penny out of every property? That's how we look at it. Like every ounce we can get. What can we do that's cost effective that'll make the biggest bang for the buck? Susan Wolski, East Paxton, for my parents moved. They were wonderful to work with. Yes. And the other reason, that's such a great comment. The other reason, if you're moving into senior living, you want to be out of the property. It's out of sight, out of mind. If I had to try to sell my parents' house, now I grew up in Park Ridge. If my dad was living there while we were selling it, it would have been a nightmare. A, he couldn't get out for the showing just from his mobility. B, I wouldn't want him, especially in a market like this, to have to leave the house or have all those people coming through and making comments. When you're not there, and for the adult children, when mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, whoever you're helping is not there, it's a massive relief of stress off their shoulders. And you provide updates. They're not seeing the day-to-day, having to move, having the doorbell ring. Literally in a market like this, you might have 30 showings in an afternoon. It's not wise for their health to be in that environment just because of the stress. It's stressful for a normal sale. In these situations, it might be even different.
And again, I make a point too, from a real estate perspective and from a senior perspective. And I wrote this just now in the chat. For the most part, it's not healthy for a lot of these clients to see their stuff leave their home as it's being either unfortunately junked, or if it's being removed for a house sale somewhere else, or it's being removed to go to their next residence. Sometimes it's best to have somebody take the person out to lunch, or go be in the public areas of the new retirement community, or somewhere else, so they're not physically seeing all of this. And so that part's important too, because it's so personal. In the case of this gentleman that Mark and I worked with a couple months back, who moved to a senior community, they had to get him moved. He could not have sat there and watched what was going to happen to his house and his surrounding. And that hoarding is obviously a whole psychology, and I'm sure you've all heard about that. That it's those possessions are like part of their mental state, like they own these things. So getting the person to the better end on where they're going to go, then having them see all this is really important, so they have your resources lined up.
And Barbara, that example, I mean, we helped connect him with the junk. I got someone that he only had a couple items to move. I found a smaller move company to help him move. He had documents to get shredded. He needed stuff packed and moved. Like, there are multiple pieces to the pie that he needed to be connected with. So, sometimes, let's say you live out of state and mom needs to move into a community. Who's going to pay the bills? Do you need to do what they call a daily money manager to help make sure if there's still a mortgage, the mortgage gets paid, the taxes get paid, the electric bill, the gas bill, the insurance. If there's a pipe that bursts, or you get flooding in the basement, who has access to the accounts to have a waterproof company come and fix it? All these different things. You got to keep utilities on it, especially in Chicago in the winter. You don't want your pipes freezing. I've seen that, and it's a mess, right? So there's all these different factors. Who handles the bills? So there's a lot of different avenues to cover with this, and having the right professional team helping you with this is crucial. And again, I didn't have this. My sister and I figured this out all on our own, and we failed forward miserably through this whole thing. But we learned some valuable lessons too. Anybody else have any other questions? Regarding senior moves, regarding rehabbing a property, like updating things. I'll give you an idea. Here's a little punch list. Things to look for if you're going to update things. Convert wallpaper to neutral paint. Convert old paint to new paint. it's amazing what a fresh coat of paint does to a house. It's amazing what replacing the carpet does to the house. And there's tricks of the trade, everybody. You know, if the home wasn't filled with smoke or pets, it's just old carpet. A lot of times you can keep the padding. The padding's still good. You're just replacing the top layer. Remember, you're selling it. You're not living there anymore. Let's say the kitchen's got an older kitchen. Can the cabinets be painted and change out the hardware? Not just the knobs, but the knobs and the hinges. You can't have old copper hinges and then a brush nickel knob, right? Does it make sense to change the countertops? You know, you've got some old big hedges in the front that could be removed and just have some little bushes planted and some mulch to affect the curb appeal. Here's another thing. I just helped a client with this. We literally had 30 showings in 3 days with multiple offers, sold over list price. One of the biggest things I told them was this: you got to fix the front lock. Because they said, well, you can jimmy the key. I said, you can't jimmy the key. You need either a brand new lock or they got the lock fixed. Because if a buyer's standing outside waiting for their agent to try to open the door, if the lock's not working, now they're like, well, what else is wrong with the house? 2, now they're really looking on the outside. And if your curb appeal is not as nice as you'd like it to be, they're focusing on that. So as they walk up to the house, you want that to be the first step that they see, like, oh, wow, this is well maintained. Oh, the door opened. It's a subconscious thing. So if it's one of the really, really, really old locks, I recommend having a locksmith replace the lock with something that's very easy for the agent to open and close. Because I've had someone try to go the cheap route, and guess what? We had literally 40 showings in 2 days on this property, and a third of the way through, an agent broke off the key inside the lock. We had to postpone showings. We lost some showings. I mean, granted, we ended up selling it over list, but I had to delay the process because we couldn't even open the door. Locksmith had to remove the entire piece and replace it. So there's a lot of little things that you want to do that go a long way, and they're not as expensive. Any other questions regarding the market, regarding moving, regarding packing, regarding, you know, oh, here's one. Is your property in a trust? If it's not in a trust, does somebody have financial and medical POA in the God forbid something happens event? I've seen folks that think that they're protected. Something happens and now the adult child can't make a decision because it was never taken care of in advance. And now they have a lot more time and a lot more money to get guardianship. And then the court has to decide and approve what you do. So speaking to an elder law attorney is you're beginning this process to make sure your house is protected, you're protected. Those are big things that you want to consult an elder law attorney with. Just to make sure that every layer of protection is there. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Just say hello.
So are you saying putting it in a trust is a good thing?
I think it depends, Audrey. I think it depends on your time frame and your situation. I would consult with an elder law attorney about that, because what people don't know is people think, oh, I have a will, so it's all good.
Right.
If somebody passes and there's a will, the will just dictates who the executor is to carry out those wishes. It has to go to probate, meaning money and time in court. And then the funds get tied up for 6 months because there might be past creditors or past medical bills that once they find out someone has passed, they come after those bills. If the home is in a trust, it's protected by the trust and you avoid probate. And the
Okay.
cost of doing a trust is significantly lower than going to probate.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. Great question, by the way. Anybody else? I see a Christina, a Susan, a John.
I just
Sue Ann,
want to make,
Carol?
I just want to make a comment about, making sure that, while these affairs are being done, that anybody coming into the home is a trusted individual. You don't want to hear that the neighbor or the neighbor's sister came by because you were giving a table away or doing this or doing that. It's very important to have your partners aligned before you tackle any of this. So you know exactly who is in the house with that family member. So security is above all, and elder abuse is above all important. Mark, I'm sure you've seen a lot.
Yeah, and that's why I do what I do. I mean, I created this, like, I mean, this is systematized for me. We have a schedule of how we do things because I didn't know resources back then, right? And going to Google could be a very scary thing because you don't know who you're getting. So that's been kind of like, I mean, Barbara, like that's been like my MO is I'm the connector. I connect everyone and I have very high standards. So if I'm connecting someone to someone, I inspect what I expect. I make sure that my allied partners operate at the same level of integrity and hard work and honesty that I do. Because our names are on it, and you want to make sure that it's trusted people.
I did just want to say thanks. This is obviously I have elderly parents. My dad's in his 90s and my mom in her late 80s, and it's in failing health and just, but the stress of thinking about dealing with their things in the future. So it's appreciated kind of hearing some different answers and ideas, and just, it's kind of like the big knowing it's in the future. And for my own parents, like we started to go through some things, but their health is just such that it was just too stressful, and it's not technically a senior center, a senior living area, but it's in a condominium area where there's a lot of seniors, and just
Sure.
kind of thought, it's okay, mom and dad, we'll figure it out, and later on. So don't stress, don't worry about it now. Because my parents wanted to try to go through things, and that was just way too time consuming, too exhausting for them.
It's overwhelming, John. And
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on because we went through the same thing. And I can tell you, once you get through the move and you get through this process, you as the adult child, it's like finishing finals in college. Like you're like,
Yeah.
But when you're going through this, it's the most physically, mentally, emotionally draining process you can go through. Because you've got your own life going on, and then you're worrying about your parents, and then,
Yeah.
and it's just like, you don't even know which way you're going, and you feel like a zombie.
I did go through with my mom and a few things and just asked her to tell me the story, because I told her that, I'm not going to be taking things. My wife doesn't want me to bring home things either. Tell me the story on a few small things, so that I kind of know that maybe I'll take that item. And that was at least good for me to kind of have that I may take, but I just made it clear to them too, is your stuff is not our relationship. So I'm not going to end up with your stuff in my house. It's just,
You know what? And part of like what I've just gone through is me clearing out my basement. A lot of it was stuff I held on to.
mm-hmm.
My parents' house. And what I've learned over the years, we are not attached to the item. We're attached to the feeling we get when we see the item.
Right.
So if you just simply take a picture of it and get rid of it,
Yeah.
you still have the photo.
Yeah.
You don't need the actual like little clock that was on the fireplace. You need the actual, right? Because this stuff takes up space. I wish I knew that a long time ago, because I spent God knows how much money in storage and hanging on to stuff, and now we're like, what do we keep this for? Like,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. A question for you. My parents, myself, are down in the southwest suburbs.
Yeah.
Do you also deal with things in the southwest suburbs, or is there
Oh, yeah.
somebody that
I
you
go
would recommend, or?
I literally go from Antioch down to like, I've sold as far as Kankakee.
Oh, okay.
From Sycamore to the lake. I mean, yeah, I've helped a lot of folks in the south suburbs.
Okay.
I got one, I'm helping a gentleman out right now that's in Crete.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, we're in like the Orland area.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, there's really no border because with the internet, everything is done, but I don't mind traveling to spots because I know the team that we have is resourceful. And it's hard to refer some of this out because you don't know if like Barbara said, your team matters.
Yeah, and is like Paxum and Junk, I know Junk Relief, I think that's everywhere, but is like Paxum, is that located in
They go all over.
all over as well too? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for talking here as well as.
Oh, no, my pleasure. I put
you
my
know,
number in the chat,
Works
my
putting
email,
this
my
together.
number. So if you have any offline questions, I'd be happy to
Thank you.
walk you through. Thanks. I feel for what you're going through. It's,
Yeah.
but you know what? The fact your parents are that age, God bless.
Yeah, well, and I'm just trying to enjoy them now and just told them we'll get it taken care of, and not to have them be stressed about that
Right.
aspect. They wanted to try to go through things, but it's the things that should be just the throwaway pile is we could use somebody could use that.
Right. Yeah, it's not going in the garbage. It's getting donated or recycled for someone else to enjoy.
Yeah. So thank you.
Sure, my pleasure. Anybody else have any questions or?
Anybody have any questions? We're right about close to 1. Anybody, anything else?
I do actually, Bob Mauer again, Mark, but I'm not
Hey,
sure
Bob.
this is within the scope of the topic here, so feel free to push me offline and I can hit you up that way. The business side of the equation, if you got
Yeah.
somebody who should move out before they sell their house for all the reasons you laid out, but they're asset rich and cash poor, how does that work?
That's a great question. So there's different things you could do depending if there's equity in the house or if they have like stock assets.
It's all equity in the house. That's it.
Okay. So we could talk more about that, more details offline, but I can tell you, I came across this with a lot of communities where somebody wanted to move in and same exact thing. They, their home was free and clear, but their monthly nut was not enough to cover the cost of where they were moving and cover where they were living.
Right.
So, and I found private funding that could do somewhat of like a bridge loan. Now, I don't make a penny off of it because I just try to come up with a solution. But I've got a partner that will basically take a chunk of not only what's needed, it is broken into 3 columns, basically. What's the amount for the home to cover, the basics? What's if you're going to do any type of rehab, is that column 2, if there is any? We get bids and figure out, okay, we need, 1,000 for carpeting, 2,500 for paint, right? We get all that in advance. And then the third piece is where they're moving to. What do you need to budget for that? And it's kind of like a 6-month scope. And it can be taken out of the equity. It's recorded as a lien, like as another mortgage. So if like down the road, they have to go to Medicaid, it's part of the spend out.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever's not used it gets paid off when it closes anyway.
Right.
But as a senior, they cannot do a line of credit because you have to be working.
Mm.
And there's other programs that will do a bridge from home to a senior living, but they don't cover the other pieces of it. It's just the community cost, which kind of doesn't help. So there's more intricacies
you
to it,
can't
but
do
there's
it.
options out there.
You can't do a HELOC because you have to have income from employment. You can't be relying on retirement income.
Yeah, the bank wants to make sure you can pay that loan back.
What isn't retirement pretty much guaranteed? SSI and some kind of pension.
Yeah, but usually with the amount someone's bringing in isn't enough to cover the HELOC.
Hmm.
I think it depends on the bank you go to.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, I can hit you up with that outside
Sure.
of this. Appreciate it.
Sure. It's a great question. It comes up more than people think.
Mm-hmm. And thanks for the
The
presentation.
other thing, Bob, thank you. The other thing is too, if they're moving to a senior living community, a lot of them will do maybe a month or 2 of what they call respite, where it's like, try it out. if they know they're going to be there for a longer term, sometimes you can work that into the deal where you can get a month or two of respite just to help offset some of the costs.
The transition. Okay. All right. it's
Yeah, I
good to
think
know.
that depends on if they got, I mean, that depends on the community. But that's another idea to throw in the hat.
Yeah, respites, I have to chime in here. Respites, these days are minimum 60 to 90 days if they'll do them in the COVID climate right now. It's same paperwork as it is for someone that lives there for 20 years. So, but it is definitely a possibility.
Okay. Good to know. Thanks.
Barbara's the one to go to for that one, Bob, on the respite part. She knows that way more than I do.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Sure.
Yes, respite still has costs. Assisted living respite is, $5,000 to $8,000 a month. That's what assisted living costs. Independent living is, 3 to 5 roughly.
Memory care is significantly more,
That's
no
correct.
matter which way you look at it.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody else have any other thing I can answer? I hope before we leave today, anything you've been thinking of, I've helped answer, or you
For
can
right
hit me
now,
offline, but
for right now in the chat, and 3 little dots at the very bottom, if you open up a chat, you can save the chat because there's some resources in there. We did put Junk Relief in here. We did put Paxim in here. Mark has his information in the chat as well. My information's in the chat as well. If you need any help with senior living referrals or home care. But before we go, does anybody have any other questions? You've been wonderful today, and we really appreciate your participation. Anyone have a personal story they want to close out with, anything they've gone through or what have you? Okay.
Barbara, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to do this, and I thank everyone who came on today for letting me, share my story and some of the nuggets I've learned over the years. And if this helped in any way, that's the goal. I hope that you walked away going, wow, okay, I have an idea, or you might be like, oh my God. But clarity is power. And I think the more clear you are on what's to come, the better prepared you can be. And my advice would be, if anybody has a loved one that's got to move into senior living, even if especially if it's down the road, reach out to Barbara. Like, having that conversation before it's too late. With my dad, he was in the hospital. We were like forced into it. We sat down with the case manager, like, yeah, he can't go home. What? What do you mean? He can't go home. He's fallen too many times. You don't want to be in that, fire drill situation. If you know 3, 6, 9, 12 months down the road, this is something that might happen, get your ducks in line today, so that when something does happen or when the time is right, this is a big piece that's off your plate, and you can do things more efficiently with less stress.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
You
Have a
appreciate
great-
it.
Have a great day.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.